Frequent Flower subscribers, I am really excited to share this month's tutorial with you. So you all have received your flowers, and this month you also received this DIY floral grid. So when you open up the package, it's going to look like this, 2 pieces. And this is going to be a fantastic tool for you at home designing on your own who are beginners. Even as someone who's been in the floral industry for over 10 years, I found this helpful too when working with a container that has a large opening, or sometimes just larger pieces where I'm not using a lot of greenery to help create that grid. If you've been with this for a little while, it's something I say often about building that grid to help keep your flowers in place when you arrange. That's what's really going to set you apart in your arrangements and help you to create fuller, more round bouquets. So let's get started. So with this grid, like I said, you have 2 pieces. It has a slot on each side and then a little notch, or sorry, a little tab on each side. You are going to cross those and make them match up so that it creates one grid like this. Then it's going to lay on top of your vase and we're going to arrange into it. Whenever we're finished, we unlock it and just pull each piece out one at a time and you'll have a perfectly arranged arrangement. So let's go. So since we were giving you this grid this month, we decided to mix it up a little bit and give you a mixed bouquet rather than the traditionally every month we give you one type of featured flower. So this month you have a little bit of Solidago, you have Safari Sunset. Last month we had some chrysanthemums. We do again, these are called Vikings, so they're a smaller multi-bloom variety. And then we also have some Asiatic lilies and a little bit of green salal. So we're gonna get started with our salal. So what you can do is take your scissors or your knife or your trimmers and start to cut off those laterals. You wanna still leave them so we have some length, and that's what's gonna get us started with our grid. So like I always say, if you've seen any of our previous videos, you want to place things in at an angle so that you're lacing your stems. Even though we're using this grid to help us out, we still want to lace our stems. So I'm going to start with our salal and start crossing our stems. That's going to cover the top of our vase here and help base our arrangement. Do be cautious that you're placing things into the vase, not just into the grid. You could certainly place it into the grid and it not go into water. All right, we have a good start with our greenery, just kind of throughout. Don't stress over this too much about where placement is, other than you want them just evenly placed. If you have any leaves that look like they have any damage, they're just not pretty enough, trim them off, no big deal. Okay, so the next thing I'm gonna go in with is our filler flower. When I'm arranging, it's not always the first thing I put in, usually it's the last, but sometimes in a vase like this where we wanna create a nice base before we add our flowers, we can go in with the filler flower next to, again, help create that grid, keep our flowers in place. We have 5 stems, so I'm going to put one right in the center, and then those other 4 stems, I'm going to put at each corner. So if you're picturing kind of our grid as a square, at each corner. You want to remove any of the foliage that's going to be below the water line. And before you start arranging, make sure your vase is a clean vessel and you're going to add your water and then add the packet of flower food that we send with your subscription each month. Next, I'm going to go in with my Safari Sunset. Also, I have 5 of those. I'm going to follow that same pattern. This arrangement, we're kind of doing low and lush. You could certainly give it more height depending on your vase. You do not have to make your arrangement look like mine. That's the best part about the subscription, is you get to be creative. Again, I'm removing any of the foliage that's below the water line. I am going into different spots on that grid than the spots that my Solidago is in, but just doing a similar placement, just so my arrangement is balanced. Next up, we're gonna go for our lilies. So your lilies, If they're not fully open, put them in warm water, give them a day or so, they will open. You can still arrange with them even if they're not opened. If they are open, you will notice that they have a little bit of pollen in them. I recommend using a Kleenex to remove this pollen. It can stain your hands. My hands are used to it. I'm just gonna go for it. So just gently remove the pollen. Drop that in a trash can. The pollen, once you know, if it gets kind of powdery, it can stain your hands, it can stain your table, anything that it falls on. It's just easier to keep the mess away and to just take it off as we start. Again, I'm gonna remove any of my lower foliage. I hold my flowers up to the edge of the table to get an idea of where I want to cut them. If you're nervous, always cut longer, then you can make it shorter versus the other way around. We want to cut it so that our stems are getting as low in the vase, possibly to the bottom of the vase as possible, so that even if that water line drops because we forget to add water, they're still going to get a good drink. All right, so I'm going to go in at this side. And then I'm gonna take my other stem. Again, remove that pollen. So this guy, I've got a little bit of a broken head. I'm just gonna trim him off. No worries. These little buds are probably not really ever gonna open. If it's a larger one, it will. But lots of times when the flower is cut from the plant a little early, those larger buds may never open. But you should get at least 2, if not 3, large open blooms from each of your lily stems. So now we are left with our chrysanthemums, but these are called Vikings. If you saw last month's video on the large Fuji mums, we talked about how they were a disbud, how the smaller laterals were taken off so one bloom existed. So these are the opposite. Sometimes you'll notice it looks like there's broken stems. Do you see those? Broken stems, that's actually where these have been disbudded. They've taken the one main bloom off so that it shoots out longer laterals with more blooms. Those bother me. I feel like they look like broken stems. I usually just trim off that piece. I'm gonna leave most of my individual blooms on this stem. I'm not gonna cut it apart. And I've got 3 of these, so I'm just gonna evenly place them around my vase. Again, removing any foliage. Now I'm just gonna add in those extra blooms wherever I think I see some holes. We also sent a little bit of dried wheat with you this month. This is always just a fun added touch to make it feel a little bit more like fall or harvest. I'm going to kind of group them in different spots around my arrangement. And these are fun. These do not have to touch the bottom of the vase. They're already dried. So you can kind of place these however you would like. And if you've cut off parts of it, it's even fun to kind of use the trimmed off stems just for some little added flair. So we're gonna find the 2 tabs on our grid. Mine are on these 2 sides. And I'm gonna lift up on the grid. I'm going to remove the bottom one first. I feel like I'm doing a magic trick. It is a magic trick. And then remove the second one. And look at that. Our flowers are in place. They're not moving. They're not going anywhere. Sometimes we've taught you, using curly willow in the vase or chicken wire or even taping off the vase. All of those are great options, but they also add another element to the arrangement that maybe you feel like you need to hide your mechanics. These things are wonderful that you just have a perfectly arranged vase every time. How awesome is that? Thank you guys for subscribing. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to send us a message, comment on this video, give us a call. You know how to find us, and we'll see you next time.